I'd like to welcome everybody out to Planning and Zoning meeting tonight, April 9th. We'd like to get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Commissioner Dayton to lead us in that.
Repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first order of business tonight will be the review and approval of last meeting's minutes. Has anybody had a chance to review those, and do I have the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let those be entered into the record. Our next item of business is the expansion of non-conforming buildings. This is a public hearing, so we'll hear from staff, then the applicant, and then the public. Go ahead.
So this property is located at 20 South and 200 East, so just a couple blocks over that way. It's currently zoned R16, and then the next slide shows an aerial of the property that we're talking about here. It's going to be that red one right in the middle. In reality, we're actually talking about that detached garage just at the rear of that property. That garage is what we call a non-complying structure, and the applicant is requesting your approval to reconstruct that, build a new garage in its place. The reason that you guys are seeing this, though, is because accessory structures that are larger than 200 square feet need to have a setback of at least 5 feet to the rear and side of the property. The current garage does have a 5-foot setback to the rear, but it does not have a 5-foot setback to the side. It has a 0-foot setback on the side, and that's going to be that south side, right here. Yep, here's the site plan. So there you can see the new garage is going to be, or is proposed to be 20 by 24 feet, so far larger than 200 square feet. So the reason that it would have to be in a similar place to where it currently is just because if you did have that 5-foot setback, it would be quite difficult to get a car into the garage because it would then become in the plane of the house. It would be tough to actually park your car in there. Move to the next slide. Should have some more photos. These should give you some perspective kind of how tight that window is there between the house and the garage. Here's an above photo showing it as well. It's right there on that property line, really, really tight in that backyard there. If you go to the next one, so this is the section of code on non-compliant structures that allows you, the Planning Commission, to be the approval body regarding reconstructing a non-complying structure. And then if you go to the next one, we have some plans for the garage. Here is that south side wall, and as you can see, it says that there's going to be it's going to be a firewall on that 0-foot setback. So that should hopefully help protect that property owner that's adjacent to it, and there will be no eave on the roof either, so it shouldn't stick out into the adjacent property owner's property at all. And then if you go to the next slide, this is a sample of what the garage will look like. I believe this is just a similar one that those plans are roughly based off of. So staff tonight is going to recommend approval of the non-complying structure based off the findings and subject to the conditions listed here. I don't think that there are any listed in the staff report since it's just a memo, but we have them listed up here for you guys. Any questions?
Will the color of the new garage match or, look like it goes with the home? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is it going to be something that looks? It's way back from the road, but like in the homeowner association I live in, if there's any accessory structures, the structure's got to at least look like it goes with the home.
Definitely. I think in our code it technically says as if it's not within the plane of the house, it doesn't have to be architecturally compatible. Am I correct in saying
That's
that?
correct, yeah.
But I don't know what their plans are for it. Is the applicant here? So maybe they could
That's
answer
it.
some questions
Yeah,
on specifics.
I don't think it has to have that brick and all that kind of stuff, but at least color scheme
Mm.
that.
You don't want a purple or something?
Well,
I think that's an excellent question for the applicant.
great.
Thanks, Ian. Would the applicant like to come up and address the commission? You want to come up and present your project?
So that garage,
Hold on a minute. Come up and introduce yourself so people on TV can hear you.
sorry.
You're on
Hi,
camera.
I'm Jamie, the homeowner. So when our garage was built, probably in the 1940s, they didn't put a structure inside of it. It's not framed at all, it's just bricks. So it's kind of started just kind of leaning a little bit, and the windows on the side will not stay shut anymore. So we don't want a new garage per se, but we feel like we need to just replace it before something happens to it. So that's why we're doing that. And then it will just be the same color as the top eave, kind of that cream color. So it will match everything. The brick will not be there, but it'll just have the siding on the side that will be cream colored or whatever that color is.
That's great.
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Anything to discuss? This is, as we talked about earlier, this is just on a case-by-case basis, we'll review things that are non-conforming.
I guess the only concern I would think of is the neighbor next door, 'cause it's right on the property line.
It is a public hearing.
It is a public
Maybe-
hearing. True,
Maybe the
very good.
neighbors might be here.
Thank you for bringing that up. Public hearing, so I guess we would like to hear if there's anybody here to speak on this issue, feel free to come on up. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. So I guess the neighbors didn't want to come,
guess
or didn't
not.
know or forgot or something, but they're
And
not here to
Just
express
as a
themselves.
note, we did notify all of the property owners within 300 feet, so the neighbors should be aware of it. But
One of the points for me that's important is that I feel, as the applicant brought up, if it is starting to lean at all, that is a safety issue, which is right on the property line. I don't know which way it's leaning, but it could impact the neighbor negatively that way. And this structure, it appears to me, looking at the drawings you have in the aerials that we've seen, that everything is being added in square footage is going onto your property. So it's not front or back, it's just width, right? So, and I think we're updating an older building with a newer, more modern building that hopefully can last as long as that one did.
And it's very visible from the street, so the newer building will be more pleasing to look at.
I would like to say, I know I ran into the same situation on my in-laws, it's been 15 years ago or so, and it was identical to this problem. And they did the same solution you're doing, just build it right back where it was, and it's been fine, the neighbor's been fine, so.
Yeah, I guess my question, I should have asked this while you were up there, but like, how's the conversation been with with the next door neighbor who you're right there with?
Yeah, Amy, she texts me and she saw the sign in the yard. She's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, we're just trying to rebuild the line." And she's like, "Oh, okay, well, let me know if you need anything. Not a big deal." I said, "I know our property line. We don't even know where the property line is. Is it right on the garage there?" When I bought the home, they said it was where that pole is, right behind it to the left. But we actually don't know. So we talked about building a fence at some point. We're like, "Oh, we'll have to get a survey." So we don't really know where that is. But assured her that it wasn't going any further south than where it is now. And she's like, okay. I probably should have got a letter from her, but she's like, okay, well, let me know if you need anything from me. So she's aware. And then I haven't heard from the other neighbors, but I have seen people walk by and look at the sign, and we've got a flyer on it as well.
Yeah, I would think that the only real impact is that neighbor who you're right up next
Yeah,
to.
and I was in contact with her, and she was like, okay, let me know if you need anything. So, and she has a similar garage to the side. Hers may be a little bit better built, I'm not sure. But
Yeah, hers looked the same from the overall.
we love the little garage. It's just if we have to rebuild it, we want to do something a little bit more
Thank you.
sturdy.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Anything else?
It seems pretty straightforward. It's not some fundamental change, so.
I think overall it's probably an improvement to the neighborhood. If I lived there, that's how I would feel. So
If there's no more comments, I would take a motion. Remember, this is an approval or not, but it's not being forwarded on to the council. We are the approving body. So, let me have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as requested.
Okay, is that the wording of that work?
Is that legal enough?
second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion passes. Our next item of business is also a public hearing. It's the development agreement that we talked about last meeting with Whispering Pines. Dave, you gonna take this one?
Yeah, so a follow-up ultimately to action that the city council took last month where they approved a preliminary plat and zone change for a master plan development located on the subject property here. It's a portion of what had been connected to the western distribution site located just off Powerhouse Road, not far from the intersection of US 89 and Highway 6 near the mouth of Spanish Fort Canyon. Just over 60 acres is what is being contemplated with this proposal tonight, which is, again, connected with the city council's approval of a development there. Their approval, again, of the zone change and preliminary plat was conditioned upon the applicants entering into and executing a development agreement with the city for that project. So tonight, the development agreement's before you for a recommendation. We've talked a little about this. I'll reiterate some things we discussed earlier by way of this being kind of unique. It's not the first time we've used a development agreement mechanism as a legislative way for the city council to approve something that otherwise our zoning code would not permit. Primarily, the zoning issue with the proposal has to do with access and the applicant's inability to provide a suitable second access to meet our typical requirements for development until additional improvements are made that would allow a connection to be made to US Highway 6. We've talked about this. Again, I'll kind of just give a little bit more of the history. The state legislature recently provided funding to make a connection between the subject property and Highway 6. I think there will be a slight realignment of US 89 involved with that project as well, so as to create a four-way intersection where US 89 will tie into Highway 6 along with the access road that would come from this project to that intersection. Spanish Fork City will receive those funds. We will be in charge of managing the construction of that project. There are other agencies involved in permitting and approving those improvements, and well, I'll say this, such as the Union Pacific Railroad and the Utah Department of Transportation. We would guess that that will probably be a 3-year project or more to get it operational. In the meantime, according to the approval and the agreement that's before you tonight, the applicants will be required to provide a second emergency egress to go along with Finger Hut Road, which is the road that ties into Powerhouse Road. The emergency egress will tie into a little-known road called Gomex Road, which is, to some degree, a road that parallels Highway 6 or the railroad tracks. The applicants will be required to provide a connection to that road. Will primarily exist just for use in the event of an emergency. That will have to be in place before their 51st home in the development could be occupied. In addition to having the agreement approved in the manner in which it's proposed, ultimately by the city council, after holding public hearings for the purpose of being able to deal with the access issue, the agreement does memorialize the council's approval of the plat and all of the details that were provided to both you and the city council at the time at which the plat and zone change were presented. Those are referenced as Exhibit C to the agreement. There is a lot of heft to the different elements of that approval, the titles of the different things that we'll have on file in our office as Exhibit C are contained there on that sheet. Frankly, we had intended on having a hard copy of all of that tonight for you guys to peruse if you wanted to. And we recently moved offices and had some trouble printing. But if anybody would like to review any of that, you're welcome to at any point in time. Everything is consistent with the approval of the plat. There have been some changes that I would call nominal, that as much as anything are the result of the applicants continuing to refine their plans to address red line comments that we as staff have given the applicant. So that being said, that's kind of my effort to give you a high-level view of the nature of the agreement, why it's before you tonight. And I'll mention this as well. Staff does recommend that the agreement be approved ultimately by the council. Tonight, the Planning Commission would be making a recommendation to the council on that. I appreciate that we have Mr. Nielsen with us tonight to answer any important questions that you might have about the agreement. But anything for me? Questions?
I guess one thing that just popped up as far as the accesses. So once the second access, once that intersection is put in and the second access is available, do you foresee most of the residents coming in and out of that access, or do you think that that residents will come in Powerhouse as well? And what will happen with the controlled intersection that is at Powerhouse and Highway 6? What is the planned I know there's modifications. I'm wondering what the planned modifications are.
Yeah, you asked for an opinion on how people will get in and out of the project once that connection's made. So I'll answer that, and then I'll let maybe Byron or Josh talk about the design of the Powerhouse Road and US 6 intersection where a light was recently installed. In the last few years it was there. I think the access to and from the project that will happen with the new connection will be very convenient. I think that will certainly be used. Also, we will be making efforts to make sure that truck traffic no longer uses the existing route to get to and from the building that's not going anywhere, the industrial building. So that might influence, the route that residents of the neighborhood take when they're coming and going. The industrial traffic, whether it's employees or trucks, that will be, as best as we can, limited to using that new connection. That's just my opinion, but I would guess it'd be split somewhat between the two.
Yeah, that matters to me because of it would be I would feel super happy if those residents were using that intersection rather than Powerhouse Road, given that Powerhouse Road is already going to be is impacted already, is going to be even more greatly impacted.
People will take the path of least resistance, where they can get in and out of their neighborhood easiest. They're going to go that way.
Yeah.
It appears on the plan that the new exit will be that less turns and the easiest way, quickest way to get out. But
Yep. Might depend on where
You're
you
right.
live in the neighborhood too.
Right, yeah,
That kind of
true.
thing.
But that will be where the traffic to the warehouse will be traveling.
That's the anticipation. Yes, is that they will use the new intersection, which is a big deal, I think, for us. One of the concerns that we've had from day one was sort of the nature of this change adding a residential element where it really wasn't contemplated when the industrial building was built 25 years ago, was the commingling of that industrial traffic with local residents. So that, in fact, the idea that we could separate that traffic was kind of a turning point, I think, on the part of staff by way of we became much more supportive of the concept once that idea really started to get traction and we felt like that could become a reality.
Yeah, and I guess my opinion on that is I'd rather, for me, it's the impact to Powerhouse Road and less the impact of combining the two traffics and having the trucks come through the neighborhood.
So will there be any changes to the Gomex Road?
Yes.
Yeah, when that bridge is built over the railroad to connect to US 6, Gomex will change a little, but there will always be that access on Gomex south to the pit, and they'll always still have that access in that path, but it will change a little, but not much.
By way of the design of talk about the high T intersection, maybe that type of thing.
Yeah, so Powerhouse and Finger Hut right now is shown as a high T signalized intersection, similar to what's on Powerhouse and US 6. So you'll have one there, and then one at Finger Hut, and they'll be built early on, or that new high T will be built early on, and it will stay there until UDOT does something different with US 6. But I haven't seen any immediate plans or anything from UDOT on changing US 6 in this area. So.
Byron, a high T intersection. Help us.
Yeah, so I'll just look it
that'd be-
online. But so just similar with the median that will go down Powerhouse. It will give trucks and residents turning left into the new development its own lane to queue up. So traffic going west down Powerhouse can kind of bypass it and won't get held up by those trucks trying to turn left. Also, trucks turning left out of Finger Hut onto Powerhouse, it will be protected by a median right here, and then it will eventually merge into one lane. But and then there will be a signal to stop Powerhouse, so they can safely turn left out of there. But
Okay, so there'll be a high T intersection right here,
yeah,
and then this intersection will stay the same
Yeah.
as it is?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Dave, so this question by no means indicates my opinion on the project, but I think it's good to ask, just for the record. Is the legislative appropriation dependent on this project being approved?
I don't know. But I don't know how we could construct a road that would make that usable for the city without this project moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a good question.
So I just want to understand the sequencing here. I know we talked about this at length before. I just want to confirm that this is how I read and how this is captured in the development agreement. Construction can start up to 50. At the 50, they have to have that secondary access to Gomex. All that is independent of our work as the city to essentially create the road, the bridge, and the 89 connection and all of that.
The responsibility to do everything you just described would be on the developer. In addition to, with the first phase, the improvements that Mr. Haslam just described. The high T intersection, improvements to Finger Hut Road, where it would become a bifurcated road and different things like that, all coming with the first phase.
And those improvements to Powerhouse could happen at any time in the project, right? There's no sort of sequencing there, right? It just has to happen within the first 50, or is there even that sequencing as well?
I'll let Mr. Guyman or anybody else correct me if I have it wrong. But it's my understanding that when they record their first plat for the first phase, which would be their next step, would be to work on construction plans and different things that we would just approve as staff for their first however many homes they have in the first phase. As part of that, they would provide a financial guarantee to the city that those improvements to Powerhouse Road would be completed and certain improvements to Finger Hut Road as well. It would be their responsibility to construct those. If they failed to construct those improvements, then we would call on that financial assurance that they had provided, and the city would construct them.
Okay.
And in addition to that, kind of on a separate track, we would only allow 50 homes to be occupied before they had made a suitable connection over to GOMEX.
So to
And
reiterate,
2.1,
Yeah.
It's iterated on that.
yeah,
Okay.
and to reiterate that, that GOMEX is the emergency connection, not the state-funded major intersection that will be constructed
Yeah. And
on its way.
that's going to be replaced with the connection to US 6. So
The agreement titles that terms that as bridge crossing connection. Bridge crossing project is that term,
thank you.
and the other is not.
So the GOMEX connection will go away, and there will only be one connection to Highway 6.
Correct.
Our concern, David, had been that we didn't want to have, since that wasn't defined when that would happen, and we didn't know when it would happen, we didn't want too many people in there for just water reasons before we had a secondary access. So GOMEX is kind of that emergency egress path in case some.
So will they be able to, they can occupy 50 units, but they could be building more while the interchange is under construction?
That's generally how we've operated in the past, yeah.
They won't get a C of O on any more than 50 till that is in place.
Yeah.
True from the applicant?
Yeah, I for sure,
Yeah.
I'll step away. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Dave.
Good evening, planning commissioners. My name is Paxton Guyman. I'm general counsel with Edge Homes, and we're very excited about this project in your city. In response to your question about the sequencing of the infrastructure, I think the best answer is to look at Exhibit D on this development agreement. This depicts the High T intersection as well as the expansion of Finger Hut Road all the way up through the roundabout. These are very significant improvements, really widening and increasing the capacity of Finger Hut Road there. All of those improvements are intended to be constructed in the first phase. So this is one of those projects where we are really front-loading the infrastructure costs to make sure that we have this traffic flow with the safety of the High T intersection right up front. It's definitely more than is needed for 50 units, but the thought was, if worse comes to worse and the legislature doesn't appropriate the funding for the bridge, that we would perhaps still be able to go forward with this project with just the Gomez emergency secondary access. Now, fortunately, that is not the case.
I'm glad you didn't need to test us on that.
We had to move heaven and earth at great cost and great cooperation from the city, and thank you for all that, by the way, to get the legislature's approval for the funding. And that is, it's manna from heaven. I mean, it really is, to get that kind of money from the state for a bridge
Especially
crossing.
this year.
Especially, exactly. So much has come together. You probably know this project has been in the works for over a year, and there have been various changes, and I think we have finally come to something that is really great. It's going to be a great addition to provide much needed housing at price points that would not otherwise be available. And we've got a great lineup of products to build in this community. So we're excited. We're so glad that it's come together. We appreciate the staff's cooperation. We recently met with staff and city attorney and engineer and sort of finalized the last few edits to this development agreement. And I think what you have before you is something that's mutually acceptable. It makes a lot of sense. The city is participating in reimbursing 30% of those improvements that are shown in Exhibit D, but 70% will not be reimbursed. So And then as we go through the sequencing of each phase, we will continue to expand and improve Finger Hut Road all the way up to the point where, when you're ready to move forward with that bridge crossing project, it will connect nicely.
I have a question on that bridge construction. It's noted that you, the developer, you may have the option to do that as well.
Let me clarify that. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
So as the city, you have to go through your standard procurement process, and we're not trying to bypass that at all. We're simply saying that we'd like to have a chance to bid it. It makes sense in a lot of ways, and if we can coordinate the timing where our crews are out there, they can continue going forward. But there's no guarantee, there's no shoe-in. You want to take the best bid from the best contractor. If it happens to be us, great. But if not, that's okay too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful, thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This is a public hearing. If anybody is here to speak on this issue, I'd love to hear from you now. Please come up to the microphone and state your name and
My name is Greg Jerkadis, resident of Spanish Fork. And I received a notice in the mail of the meeting tonight. And it was on one of those slides. I'm referring to my mother-in-law's property at 3575 East River Bottoms Road. Yeah, and I'm not sure the improvements that Powerhouse is going to go down to River Bottoms Road, how that would affect the property. So this property is right below the Chevron station,
It's right here.
right there. Yeah, there it is. So I don't know if this project is above that, that intersection there, River Bottoms Road and Powerhouse. So,
It's across River Bottoms and closer to Highway 6,
across
Okay.
Powerhouse.
across Powerhouse.
it's not going all the way down to Powerhouse.
It's not coming all the way down to River Bottoms.
River Bottoms, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Can
Okay,
you
so
scroll
it
the
won't
map up
affect
just
this
a little bit
property.
and show Greg where this is at?
Yeah,
So right, yeah.
okay,
The High T intersection, right there. So it's partway down the hill.
okay,
And then your mom's property is all the way down the hill and right here.
right. We're kind of right on the border there. I just thought I'd see the impact if
Sure,
there was any.
Sure, yeah. That's great. Appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns that you want to bring up or any other points you want to discuss?
Not right now, I'm not sure. I just wanted to make sure exactly where the development was going to be, how far it was going to go west of.
So on the road, on Powerhouse, all the traffic will be merged back before it gets to River Bottom Road, right? You've got a turning lane coming in at the intersection, but that'll be merged down to one lane by the time it hits Power.
Byron.
River Bottom.
Preliminary, we'll kind of get in those details at final, but that's kind of what it's looking like, yeah.
That sounds like what we literally just saw in Exhibit D, right? We're just discussing.
We'll get really specific with it at final.
So no real impact on that.
Shouldn't be.
Okay,
I mean,
Your impact
they'll
will
have
be,
construction going on across the street for a couple of years.
Couple of years.
I figured that, yeah.
Yeah.
but what you can do what I do, because I live in this neighborhood right over here in this home right here.
Okay,
So what I actually do is I just go up here. I avoid Powerhouse Road and I go and come up 3400 East and go to the light and access Highway 6 right there to just avoid all that traffic. It will a lot increase, but less from this development and much more from what's being built in Salem.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Any more public hearing? Then we'll close public hearing. Commissioners, any comments?
I really
No,
appreciate
I'm still stressing. I will have to say, I do love what you guys have done, and you've come back with some great because you've been here a bunch, and I do appreciate what you've come back with, and you've done what we've asked you. And mine's not even necessarily your project. I just live in that area, and the traffic's horrible, and so I know it's going to get worse, but I also want a place for my kids to live, so I get it.
I really appreciate coming back again and again with all the accommodations, thinking about the impact to the neighbors, and also that this is memorialized in a development agreement. This is very appropriate to have this development agreement for this property.
Yeah, I'll comment. I think this development agreement really captures the concerns that we've had. I think it protects us. I think it expresses the interests of both sides here. We talked for a long time about that secondary access. We have concerns about the size and everything like that, and I think we've captured that here. I like the work that's been done. I realize there's a lot of work that's been done that we haven't seen and we've just heard of, but I like where we're going with this.
So Dave, we're making a recommendation to the council for approval or denial of the development agreement, correct? Okay. So do I have a motion?
Make a motion. I move that we recommend approval to the city council for the Whispering Pines Development Agreement.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Will be going for the council when? Dave?
2 weeks.
When will this go?
6 days.
6 days. Okay.
Next week.
Okay, thank you. Our next agenda item is Title 15 Amendment. This is also a public hearing. Byron is going to take this one, it looks like.
So this is a change that staff would like to add to our code 15.4.12.07, where we talk about reimbursements of projects, particularly impact fee reimbursements. Typically in our procedure, we've always used impact fees to reimburse like the regional project up cost of construction. With our procedure, we usually have hard invoices. We do the agreements after construction. But design hasn't always been part of those reimbursements. We're starting to get some larger developments here in town with some pretty larger off-site type utility. One example's like the GLH development where they've designed a lift station for that area as part of their development. So we just want to make it clear of and give developers some I guess knowledge of how to get reimbursed for some of those off-site costs on design costs. And so we want to add it in our code so they're aware of it and to make it clear and start making it in our procedures and policies to include some of these larger costs for designing off-site utilities. But so it's shown in red and underlined, but if you have any questions about the particular language, we can discuss that.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open public hearing, and unless there's somebody here I don't see, we'll close public hearing. Commissioners, any comments?
I just think we need him to present more. I like that.
Yeah. The point, wasn't it? It's refreshing.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Is this an approval or is it a recommendation? I move that we recommend the Title 15 amendments reimbursable projects to the City Council for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Our next item is adjourning the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Into a work session. I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll adjourn into our